Part 1, A Stranger's Signature. I always thought the past would stay buried if I didn't dig. Turns out, someone else had the shovel. It was late September when the envelope arrived. No return address. Just my name, written in handwriting I didn't recognize, but one that made my hands shake anyway. Inside was a death certificate. Not mine. Not my mother's. It was Mara. Mara Lynn Clay, the woman I loved 15 years ago, the one who disappeared like smoke from my life without warning. The woman who left me with a single voicemail and no goodbye. She had died 3 weeks ago. In a town I'd never heard of. Listed as next of kin, no known family. But someone had thought of me. Someone wanted me to know. And they signed it with just one word, come. I hadn't spoken Mara's name aloud in years. Not since I buried her memory under the weight of new routines, safer love, and polite silences. But something about that envelope clawed at something I hadn't felt in over a decade. So I packed a bag. Left a note for Elise, my wife. Said I needed to take care of something in New York. She didn't ask questions. That's the kind of marriage we had now. The town was called Auburn Ridge, population small enough to count, but just big enough to forget. I arrived just after dusk, with a motel key in my pocket and a sharp wind at my back. Mara had lived in a cottage on the edge of town. The woman at the county office gave me the address. She was quiet, she said. Kind. Kept to herself. Did she have anyone? I asked. The woman blinked, then hesitated. She talked about someone once. A man named Caleb. I didn't correct her pronunciation. No one had called me Caleb in a long time. The cottage was untouched. No one had been inside since she passed. It smelled like lemon and wood smoke. Her scent. I walked through each room, half expecting to find her sitting in a corner, sketching something like she used to, hands stained with charcoal, a record spinning in the background. But all I found were echoes. And a letter waiting on the mantel. Addressed to me. Cal. If you're reading this, it means I've run out of time. I know I don't deserve to ask anything of you. But there's someone you need to meet. Her name is June. She's 12. She's your daughter. The air left my lungs in one long, steady exhale. 12. The number twisted around my ribs like wire. 12 years without knowing. 12 birthdays missed. 12 years where someone had been growing up while I was learning to forget. I sat down, letter shaking in my hands. And then I heard it. A soft knock at the door. When I opened it, a girl stood there. Green eyes. Freckles. The same crooked smile Mara used to wear when she was nervous. I think you're my dad, she said. Part 2, her eyes, my silence. I didn't say anything at first. Not when she spoke. Not when she stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Not when she sat down on the couch like she already knew where everything was. She had Mara's presence, quiet, steady, like a match held just before the flame. I watched her take in the room, her legs swinging slightly above the floor. She looked like she'd been here before, like she belonged. You're quiet, she said. Mom said you were a quiet type. My mouth was dry. She talked about me? Not a lot. Just when I asked. I nodded slowly. You knew I existed. Only recently. And you came here alone? She shook her head. Miss Eleanor brought me. She lives up the hill. Mom asked her to take care of me, in case. That last word hung in the air like dust. She reached into her bag and pulled out a drawing, soft pencil lines on thick paper. A sketch of me. Younger. Smiling. The way I used to look when Mara made me believe I could be something better than I was. She did this from memory, June said. Told me to give it to you. I took the paper. My hand trembled slightly. Not from fear. Not even shock. But from something deeper, the weight of suddenly being someone's father, with no instruction, no warm-up. Just dropped into it like a stage you forgot you agreed to walk onto. You look like her, I said. June's lips pulled into a lopsided grin. Everyone says that. Your mom, she didn't tell me. I think she wanted to. I heard her once, on the phone. Your name. She hung up fast. That hit harder than I expected. Mara had reached for me. Then changed her mind. Again. June looked around. You staying here? For a little while. She nodded. It's quiet. But there's this owl that screams at 2 a.m. You'll see. Her comfort unsettled me, like she'd learned too early how to make strangers feel at ease. Like she'd had to. I wanted to ask more. About her life. About Mara's last days. But the words formed slowly, like they had to swim up through years of rust. How did she die? I asked. June's foot stopped swinging. Then she said, she was sick for a long time. But she hid it. Even from me. My hands clenched around the sketch. Sounds like her. She left more letters, June said. For you. In the box under the bed. I waited until she left with Miss Eleanor before opening the box. Inside. 6 sealed envelopes, numbered. Each one labeled in Mara's handwriting. 1, the lie. 2, the love. 3, the silence. 4, the truth. 5, the night. 6, the end. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at them. I opened the first. Cal. This is the letter I hoped I'd never have to write. You deserve the truth. The real reason I left you that morning wasn't fear. It was guilt. I looked at the next envelope. 2, the love. But before I could reach for it, I heard a noise outside. A car door. Then gravel shifting under boots. Then a voice I hadn't heard in over 15 years. I'll be damned. He actually came back. Part 3, The Man at the Gate. I recognized the voice before I saw him. Graham. He and I had been friends once, in the kind of way men are when they're young and dangerous, when they think loyalty is just silence with teeth. He was older than me by 6 years and carried himself like someone who never lost a fight, because no one had ever dared try. I walked out to the porch. He leaned against the rusted gate, cigarette dangling from his lips, smirking like time hadn't touched him. Well, he said, flicking ash to the gravel, look what the storm dragged in. Didn't know you still lived out here, I said. He shrugged. Never left. Someone had to make sure she wasn't alone. My jaw tightened. She had people. Not people that knew her. Not like we did. He said it like a challenge. Like he wanted to be corrected. I didn't take the bait. He walked closer, slow. Same limp. Same thick boots. You hear about the kid? He asked. I met her. He whistled low. Looks just like Mara. She's mine. That right? There was something in his voice I didn't like. A curl of doubt. Maybe envy. You don't believe me. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He looked away, scanning the empty road. Then, you think she left you out of guilt? You still telling yourself that lie? I said nothing. He stepped closer. You weren't there, Cal. You left. You don't get to rewrite history just 'cause you got a letter. That was when I realized it, the tension in his stance, the way he hovered just too close to the edge of something unspoken. Did you know? I asked. About June? He didn't answer right away. Then, I knew she was raising a kid on her own. But Mara never said the name. She didn't have to. He squinted at me. You sure about that? What's that supposed to mean? He stepped back, grin gone. Nothing. Just, don't go digging unless you're ready for what's under there. After he left, I stood there, breathing in the cold. Graham had always played with half-truths. Twisted the knife gently before pushing it in. Now I had a new suspicion I couldn't shake, not about Mara. About June. I went back inside. The letters sat where I'd left them. I opened envelope 2. I loved you. That was never the lie. The love was the only true thing I had. But I knew, once I told you what I'd done, it would poison it. And I couldn't bear to see that look in your eyes. Not again. Again. That word. Like it had happened before. What hadn't she told me? That night, I sat in her old room. The same room we used to share, back when everything felt temporary and infinite. I stared at the letters, but my eyes drifted to a drawer she always kept locked. It slid open easily now. Inside was a manila folder. Medical records. Scans. And a paternity test. I held it in my hands. Cold. Heavy. Final. Positive. But not for me. The father listed was Graham. Part 4, the other name. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the kitchen, the test lying open on the table beside an empty mug. Outside, the wind kept brushing the windows like it was trying to whisper something through the glass. I didn't listen. Instead, I stared at the name typed in black ink beside the word father. Graham L. Pierce. The name hit like a punch I'd seen coming, but never braced for. I kept going over the math in my head. The timing. The arguments. The nights Mara would disappear for hours, then return smelling like tobacco and rain. I had always known there was something between them, once. But not like this. Not June. Not a whole life built in silence, wrapped in guilt. By morning, I felt brittle. I stood outside the cottage as June arrived again with Miss Eleanor, her backpack slung low, hair unbrushed, smile cautious. You look tired, she said. I didn't sleep much. She studied my face. Was it one of Mom's letters? I didn't answer. I couldn't. She sat on the porch step beside me, pulling out another folded drawing. This one of her and Mara, dancing in the rain. Their feet in puddles. Faces laughing. She used to say we were made of storms, June whispered. That's why we could dance in the middle of one. I swallowed the ache behind my teeth. June, I started. She looked up. There's something I found. Something about your dad. Her lips parted slightly. Then she said, quiet as breath, I know. That stopped me cold. You do? She nodded. I found the folder after she died. I read it. Why didn't you say anything? Because I didn't want him. Her voice cracked there. Just slightly. I waited. He came once, she said. Last year. He showed up drunk. Said he wanted to meet me. Said he deserved to. My throat tightened. Graham? She nodded. Mom told him to leave. She said if he came back, she'd call the police. I didn't realize I was gripping the porch rail until the wood creaked. June continued, she told me everything the next morning. Said she was scared to raise me alone, but more scared to raise me with him. She said she made a mistake, and then she made a choice. And that choice was me? June looked at me with those same eyes Mara used to have when she asked for forgiveness without saying the words. She said, you were the only good thing she ever believed in. I closed my eyes. The letter. The silence. The buried truth. I had come here for closure. But I was being handed something else entirely. That afternoon, I drove into town. Graham was at the bar he practically lived in, same stool, same beer, same dead stare. He saw me coming. "You look like hell." I tossed the folder on the bar. "You ever think about telling me?" He didn't look at it. "Would it have changed anything? She's your daughter." He snorted. "Is that what she told you?" "No. That's what the paper says." Now he looked up. "I didn't ask for a test," he said. "You didn't have to." He leaned back, smirking. "You think blood makes you a father?" I stepped closer. "No," I said. "But showing up does." He didn't reply. But I saw it, a flicker of something in his eyes. Regret. Or maybe just the memory of what it cost him not to be chosen. As I turned to leave, he said one thing. "She's got your stubbornness." Back at the cottage, June was asleep on the couch, one hand curled beneath her cheek, the other still clutching the drawing. I sat beside her and watched the light fade from the windows, like it was folding itself into her dreams. And for the first time since I'd arrived, I didn't feel like a visitor. I reached for envelope number 3. The silence. Inside, Mara had written. "The hardest part wasn't the lie. It was the quiet. The way you never came after me. I wanted you to fight for me, Cal. But maybe I didn't deserve it." Outside, the owl screamed. And for the first time, I screamed back, but only in my chest. Part 5, Miss Eleanor's Story. The next morning, I woke to the sound of the kettle whistling and soft humming in the kitchen. June wasn't alone. Miss Eleanor stood at the stove, wearing a thick sweater and floral apron, her hands steady as stone. She was older than I remembered, skin folded like soft parchment, hair coiled tight in a silver bun, but her presence filled the room like a steady flame. "I hope you like Earl Grey," she said without looking back. "It's what Mara kept in the cupboard, so it's what we drink now." I nodded, still half asleep. "Thank you." She poured 2 mugs, then sat across from me. "I was wondering when you'd come," she said, her voice like worn velvet. "I didn't know I was supposed to." She gave me a long look. She waited longer than anyone should. I took a sip of tea. It was scalding and bitter, the kind that made you feel the heat down to your chest. "She told you everything?" I asked. "Enough," Eleanor said. "She didn't confess. But she unraveled. There was a silence between us. Thick. Mutual. Did you know June wasn't mine?" I finally asked. Eleanor took a long breath, nodded. "She came to me shaking the day she found out. She had taken the test alone. Wanted to make peace with it before she ever sent it to you. She never did. She almost did. Twice. Once when June turned 10. And once again, last spring, when the cancer came back." I looked down at the table. She wanted to protect June from him. From Graham. Eleanor's voice sharpened. "And from the man you used to be." That made me flinch. She saw it. "She never hated you, Cal. But you scared her. The distance. The way you disappeared into your own silence." "I didn't know what she wanted," I said. "She left. She left because she couldn't hold both truths in the same house. The love for you. And the shame of what happened with him." I wanted to ask more, but Eleanor reached into her coat and pulled out something wrapped in cloth. It was a small cassette tape. "I found this in her nightstand," she said. Didn't recognize the label. Written in pen. "Cal, only if she's gone." Later that night, after June had gone to bed and the cottage fell quiet again, I sat by the window and played the tape on an old recorder Eleanor had left behind. Mara's voice, soft and hoarse, filled the room like smoke. "Cal, if you're listening, then I'm probably, well, you know. There's so much I didn't say. I was afraid of what silence would break if I said it out loud. But here it is. You were always the man I loved. Even when I broke us. Even when I slept with Graham. It was once. It was a mistake. I was angry, lost, and you were pulling away. And then I found out I was pregnant. And I didn't know. I told myself it didn't matter. That love would make it true. But Cal. June doesn't need to know. Not unless it's hurting her. Let her belong to the world she already believes in. And if you can, if you want to, be that world." I sat there long after the tape ended. The air felt like it had shifted, like the truth had finally filled every corner of the room, and none of the furniture fit anymore. The next morning, June asked if she could show me something. She led me to the hill behind the cottage. There was a bench, half covered in fallen leaves, and a small plaque beneath it. "For those we loved, and let go." I sat beside her. She didn't say anything for a while. Then. "Did she tell you?" I paused. "She told me enough." June nodded slowly. "I don't want to know more." "Not now." "That's okay," I said. She leaned her head against my shoulder. "I don't want him," she whispered. "You don't have to." I didn't know what came next. But for the first time in years, I didn't need to. That night, I opened envelope 4. The truth. If I had told you then, you would have left. And I wouldn't have blamed you. But maybe this was never about truth. Maybe it was about who stayed, and why. If you're reading this, it means you stayed. That's all I ever needed to believe in again. Outside, the owl was silent. And in its silence, I heard everything I hadn't dared hope for. Part 6, Things We Carry. There's a quiet that settles over grief when it lingers long enough. It stops screaming. Stops knocking on your door. Instead, it moves in. Rearranges your furniture. Adjusts your clocks. That's how the days felt after I opened the 4th letter. Like grief had taken a seat at the table, no longer asking for permission to stay. June and I found a rhythm. She would draw while I cleaned out Mara's things. We spoke in small exchanges, what she liked in school, the names of her friends, her favorite weather. I learned she hated tomatoes and loved thunderstorms. I learned she didn't like being called kiddo, but didn't mind Jay. One morning, she asked if I remembered the treehouse behind the shed. I did. We built it when Mara still believed we'd raise something together here, a garden, a child, a life. It had fallen apart mostly, rotted through and lopsided, but June climbed up anyway. Said it was her favorite hiding place. That's when she handed me another letter. "I found this last week," she said. "I thought you should open it, when you were ready." It was envelope 5. The night. I waited until evening. Sat at the edge of the old porch with a blanket over my shoulders, the chill of October pressing against my skin like memory. Then I opened it. "Cal. There's something I've never told anyone. Not even Eleanor. Not Graham. Only you now. The night before I left, I was going to tell you everything. About the test. The truth. My fear. Asterisk, but you were gone. You said you needed space. Said we were moving too fast, burning too hot. You said love wasn't enough. So I made the decision for both of us. I let love go. My breath came tight. I remembered that night, too vividly now. The fight. The silence that followed. The way I had left, just for air, for a drive. And how she wasn't there when I came back. All these years, I'd believed she left because I wasn't enough. But maybe she had left because I'd already convinced her of that. I found June sitting on the steps later, sketchbook on her knees, drawing stars she couldn't see through the clouded sky. "Do you miss her?" she asked. "Every day." She nodded, then said, "Sometimes I think I see her. Like, shadows of her. In the mirror. In my face. You do look like her. She said you used to tell her that made her dangerous." I smiled. Because she could always get away with things. With those eyes. June grinned. She said that too. We sat there a long time. And for the first time, I wondered what it meant to stay. Not just for a few days. Not just to read letters and pack boxes. But to be here. To build a life from the bones of another. The next morning, Graham was waiting at the bottom of the drive. Hands in his pockets. Shoulders hunched like the cold had finally gotten to him. "You read the rest yet?" he asked. "Almost." He kicked the gravel. "There's something else you should know." I folded my arms. "Now's the time." He nodded, then said. "She never mailed that test." I stared. "What are you talking about?" "She asked me to take it." I did. But she never sent it in. Not then. Not until years later. "You're lying." "She told me," Cal said, "she didn't want to know. Said she wanted you to be her father. Not me." The silence burned between us. He pulled something from his coat, another envelope. Yellowed. Sealed. Addressed to Mara. Unopened. "I kept it," Graham said. "Never had the guts to read it. Figured, maybe you should." Inside, a lab slip. Not a duplicate. An earlier test. This one listed the father as inconclusive. My stomach turned. 2 tests. 2 results. 1 sealed. 1 sent. Mara had chosen which truth to believe. "You ever think she just didn't know?" Graham asked. I looked at him. And said, "I think she knew exactly what she wanted." That night, I opened envelope 6. The end. Asterisk, I know what this looks like, Cal. I know what it feels like to stand in the ruins of what we almost had. But if you're here, then you chose to stay. Not because of guilt. Not because of answers. But because sometimes love doesn't need to be proven. It just needs to be picked up again. Asterisk. The letter fell from my hands. And outside, the sky cracked open with rain. But for the first time, I didn't feel like hiding. Part 7, The Last Light. The rain didn't let up for hours. I sat by the window in the dark, listening to it fill the gutters, the woods, the hollow places I didn't know were still inside me. June was asleep upstairs. The house creaked around her like it was learning how to hold the weight of both of us again. I thought about the letters. About Graham. About the test. And about Mara, the way she used to say my name when she was tired, like it meant more when whispered than spoken aloud. The truth wasn't clean. It didn't arrive with sharp clarity or moral victories. It came murky. Tangled. But it came. And I had to choose what to do with it. The next morning, I found June in the kitchen, wearing one of Mara's old sweaters. It hung off her frame like memory clinging to a body that no longer fit. "Can we go somewhere?" she asked. "Where?" She smiled a little. "I'll show you." We drove out past the lake, where the woods thickened and the road disappeared into gravel. She led me on foot through tall grass and birch trees until we came to a clearing I'd forgotten existed. A small bench. An overgrown fire pit. And beside it, a time-worn swing still hanging from a bent pine. "She used to bring me here," June said, running her hand across the back of the bench. "Said it was the only place that ever felt honest." I sat beside her. She pulled out a folded page from her jacket pocket, not a letter this time, but a drawing. Of me. Holding her hand. Both of us staring at the swing. I drew it last night, she said. In case you left. Something caught in my chest then, sharp, sudden. I reached out and held her hand gently. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? I promise. She leaned against my arm. After a while, she said, I don't care about the test. I don't care who, you know. I nodded. She looked up at me. I just want someone who stays. That night, I burned the second test. The inconclusive one. Let it turn to ash in the fire Mara and I once built together. Graham came by one last time. He stood on the porch, hands deep in his coat, and watched June through the window. She looks happy, he said. She's getting there. She still doesn't know. She knows what matters. He nodded slowly. You're a better man than me. No, I said. Just a different one. He looked like he might say more, but didn't. He just walked back down the drive, boots echoing in the gravel, and didn't look back. The cottage was different now. Not just because Mara was gone. But because she wasn't. She was in the letters. In the sketches pinned on the fridge. In the quiet moments June and I shared, the unspoken language of people learning how to build something without pretending the past didn't exist. Later that week, Miss Eleanor visited with 2 mugs of tea and a wrapped tin of lemon cake. She would have liked seeing you two together, she said. She already did, I replied. Eleanor smiled. You staying? I looked out the window. Then back at her. Yes, I said. We're home now. But it wasn't until that night, as I tucked June into bed, that I understood what Mara had left behind wasn't pain. It was permission. To forgive. To stay. To become something again. One last envelope remained. Unnumbered. Smaller than the rest. I found it tucked behind her mirror. No name. Just a line of her handwriting across the back. Only open when you're sure. I held it for a long time. Then slowly tore it open. Inside was a note, just 4 words. She chose you, Cal. And underneath it, folded like a secret, a photo of Mara holding a newborn baby. Her eyes shining. And on the back, written in ink. For the man who stayed. Part 8, What She Left Behind. I kept the photo in my wallet. Didn't show it to June. Not because it was a secret, but because it was mine. A private piece. A small, quiet mercy Mara had left just for me. There was something final in it. Not in a way that meant over. Just, complete. Like a circle closing. The days fell into each other. June started school again. I fixed the roof. Rebuilt the swing in the clearing. Planted tomatoes even though she swore she'd never eat one. We left Mara's things mostly untouched. Not out of grief, but reverence. We weren't forgetting her. We were growing around her. Sometimes at night, June would ask for stories, not fairy tales, but real ones. About her mother. About me. About how we met. About the time we got lost in the mountains. About the first winter in the cottage when the pipes froze and we used the fireplace for warmth and told each other secrets we've since forgotten. Those nights felt more like prayers than conversations. And then, one evening, she asked. Do you think she'd be proud of me? I looked at her, this girl who carried Mara's eyes and my stubborn silence. She already was. That spring, we took Mara's ashes to the clearing. June held them in her lap, quietly, like she understood the weight wasn't in the urn, but in what it meant to carry it. We spread them beneath the pine with the swing. She didn't cry. She just whispered, thank you, and sat beside me on the bench. It wasn't the ending I had imagined years ago. It wasn't the life Mara and I had promised each other in late-night whispers when we were young and full of plans. But it was real. It was here. And it was ours. Some nights, I still play the tape. Not because I need to hear her voice, but because I like to imagine she's still speaking to me. Still watching. And when I do, I remember what she said. Let her belong to the world she already believes in. And if you can, if you want to, be that world. So I am. I'm the ride to school and the hands that tie her boots and the voice that says, "You're okay," when her nightmares come back. I'm the porch light that stays on. I'm the man who stayed. Mara didn't leave me a child. She left me a reason. And that's what she left behind. Not silence. But this.